Yeah, I'm able to see that we are live. Yeah. Okay, we'll give a minute or so that others can join, and then we can start
I guess
the.
there is
Yeah,
an
there is an
echo.
echo going on. One second, I'll just check. Yeah, I just done the testing
Okay.
from my mobile, so yeah, so we're live actually. So okay, okay, so we are good to start. And first of all, good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone. I am Manoj Dave, your host for today. For those who may not know me, I bring over 23 years of experience in accounts, finance, payroll, and operation management. Currently, I serve as a HR head and finance controller at Startup Steroid, where I help startup streamline their financial operations and drive growth. Today, we will be discussing the benefits and relevance of account outsourcing for startups, a topic that is gaining tractions as business look to scale more efficiently. Uh, Now, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce our guest speaker for the day, Anand Sangvi. Anand is a chartered accountant and a certified public accountant with extensive experience working with startups around the world. Uh, he has helped numerous businesses navigate complexities of business, financial management, tax regulations, and accounting challenges. Anand also has a proven track record of providing valuable financial insights to startups that help them make better decisions and avoid costly mistakes. So today he will be sharing, his experience, his knowledge with respect to why outsourcing accounting services can be a strategic advantage for the startups and how you can leverage it to grow your business. Now let's set a scene. Before we dive into the nitty gritty of startup accounting and other stuff. So as a startup founder, you all have got a lot on your plate. It's more like whenever somebody is starting his own business, there is a product development, there is a customer acquisition, managing teams. So often, when the startup founder is busy with all these aspects, often accounting gets sidelined. uh, so in that scenario, account outsourcing allows startups to access professional financial services without overhead of hiring full-time experts. So to uh, to manage out the outsourcing activities. So in today's session, we are going to explore how this practice is growing among startups and address some of the common concerns and misconceptions. So this is the agenda of today's LinkedIn Live session. And by this, I will be handing over to Anand. So, over to you, sir. I'm giving you the mic. So, over to you. You can just share your experience and other stuffs.
Thanks a lot, Manoj, and thank you everyone whosoever has tuning in today. So to begin with, Manoj, accounts outsourcing is not a new phenomena. I mean, nowadays everyone, all majority of the business founders or owners to whomsoever I meet up on a regular basis,
Yeah.
they've been thinking very cautiously and efficiently about the outsourcing the accounting part. Accounts outsourcing is nothing but it's a process of delegating, I would say, the day-to-day financial tasks. Now it starts with bookkeeping to tax side of activities to day-to-day compliances, quarterly or annual compliances, uh, budgeting activities, MIS reporting activities. Uh, so this all gets covered within the accounts outsourcing, the overall vertical perspective. Now for startups, it gives for startup founders, it gives few crucial benefits, and those benefits are that the first and foremost important is that all the techies, they hate when it comes to managing the finance and accounts, because they love their first love and affection is towards managing their product and managing their tech side of activities rather than
Yeah.
getting into the nitty gritties of the accounts and finances. So by way of outsourcing your accounts and finance function, you the founders can free up their time to much more value added activities, which could be product development, go-to-market strategy, discussing and raising finance for the next round of scale, onboarding key talent as a part of the overall business activities. So these are very important benefits for any startups, and it literally saves lots of time, energy, and efficiency, and redirect the entire efforts towards the scaling up of the businesses. Now, why it is relevant for startup is, you know what, startups thrive on agility and focus. So by way of outsourcing or offloading the accounts and finance related work, uh, it's not just merely that the accounting and bookkeeping is getting managed by someone else. You
Yeah.
literally gain an access to the team of experts who
Yeah.
brings in lots of expertise towards the entire spectrum of the financial services,
Yeah.
and it literally empowers you from the financial decision making perspective. Another relevance is that, I'll give you an interesting example, is that I just met about 2 months back with an interesting team of founders. And this is the company coming from a clean tech, energy, renewable energy background. And there were three founders, uh, decent in terms of the concept. One founder was taking care of the tech, another one was taking care of marketing, and the third one was taking care of the finance and investor relations. Now,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, the third founder who was taking care of the finance side of activities, there were some discussions happened between the founders, and he decided to move on and decided to leave the startup companies. Now, the other two founders were clueless. They were not having any idea about what is the shape of the current accounts, where are we in terms of compliances and whatnot. And it almost took them 7 8 months to get a little control on the accounts process, and then they started discussing with a team of expert as an outsourced accountant, and then they come to know that okay, there is a penalty heavy lined up
Yeah.
from the IRS perspective. There are a lot of state level notices came up. 2 years of tax compliances were pending, and you know what, Manoj, there were bunch of angel investors ready to write a check of 500K, but
Yeah.
they were expecting an up-to-date updated financials, and they were not ready. And over and above that, the taxes were not filed, so they were in a completely bad shape. So how bad that situation could be, wherein the investors are ready with the funds, they are requesting the financial documents, and the founders are
Yeah.
not ready with those documents. So if they would have outsourced it to a third party team of expert, then probably irrespective whosoever is managing the day-to-day stuff, at least the accountants will keep on reminding them that okay, this compliance is due. Let's make the books and the overall accounts live from an transactional perspective, so that the entire finance function goes very smoothly without any interruption. So this is very important thing that founders have started understanding, that let's not invest more time into managing day-to-day accounting stuff in the early stage, and it's better to partner with the outsourced accountants or maybe so-called financial advisors. Another reason why I've seen that so many early stage and seed stage startups accessing and allowing more and more outsourced accountants to take charge of their finance function is there are three reasons, Manoj. One is, of
Yeah.
course, cost efficiency. So in the early stage, if any founders have raised about 200, 250K, their entire focus would be on the product development and go-to-market strategy. So they wanted to uh, uh, allocate as much amount as possible towards these two functions. So they have very less capital at their disposal. Now, if they would hire someone full time, it would
Yeah.
definitely cost them 5K or 6K per month, which probably they would
Correct.
not be able to digest it at this point of time. So by way of
Yeah.
outsourcing it to the third party accountants, at least they will save a lot of things on the cost side. Another important is that they'll get flexibility, because if, say for example, early stage startup raised 250K in the first stage, and now they are finding it a little difficult at the time of seed stage fundraising, what they can do is that they can scale down this accounting services which they have subscribed to the outside agency. So, and then once they get another seed round, another 500K or $1 million kitty, and now they exactly need a finance controller kind of a role, then probably they can scale up the services and then So it gives lots of flexibility. Whenever you want to scale up, you can scale up. Whenever you want to scale down, which is not the case if you have a full-time employee working as a full-time financial accountant as a part of your in-house team. So you can scale your services the way founders want. And um, uh, and and another thing is that the outsourced accountant would bring in a lot of efficiency, a lot of financial expertise. They would be in touch with a lot of venture capital investors or maybe angel investors, so probably they can make some introductions, nice introductions to their network of experts. If any startups wanted to scale outside the US, or maybe if the founder is based in India and they wanted to scale their startup to the North American market or maybe European countries, and this if they onboard any seasoned CFO level person, they probably, the CFO level person may not have so much of expertise and idea and understanding about the cross border side of activities, and probably the outsourced consultants would be having those kind of expertise. Then they can easily take guidance without incurring so much of expenses in the upfront. So again, it saves lots of time, energy, and efficiency when it comes to the taking this kind of decisions at the time of the scale. Now, Manoj, I've seen that there are certain misconceptions, or I would say myths, around
Yeah.
outsourcing the accounting function. And the first and foremost I've heard many times is that many times startup founders feel that once you outsource the accounts, you start losing control
Correct.
on the accounting side of function. So to be very honest, it is not the case. Rather, founders gets involved in each and every reporting side of activity. So that's a complete myth that you lose the control. There are ways and means through which you can definitely control your finances, even though you have outsourced majority of your accounting and finance and tax related functions. The second misconception could be that outsourcing is more popular and more active with large sized startups or maybe grown startup. Again, I've seen n number of examples wherein an early stage and a seed stage startups opting for the outsourced accounts and finance functions. So size really doesn't matter whether it's a matured startup or an early stage startup, or a early revenue stage startups. Anyone can think of outsourcing their accounts and finance function. And the third is about data privacy. So most of the time, most of this outsourced work getting executed through developing countries like India or maybe Philippines or maybe other parts of the Southeast Asian countries. So they always have a fear that what happens to my data. So
Yeah.
my only submission is that if founders would work with those very reputable, respectable outsourced agencies, then they would have their security protocols in place. You can go through their entire security, IT security parameters. You can have the legal agreements in place, all the non-disclosures, NCAs of the world can be placed, so that legally you get secured when it comes to
Yeah.
data privacy see in place. So in nutshell, accounts outsourcing is a powerful tool, I would say, Manoj, for the startups. One must see, try, and explore. It has its own benefits, and it gives lots of comfort to early stage, seed stage startups and the mature startups, giving them lots of flexibility and free up their time a lot so that they can focus more and more scaling up their businesses rather than managing the day-to-day nitty-gritty of managing the accounts, finance, and tax related compliance, which is boring task from a startup founder's perspective. So yeah, so that's what a little brief about. I mean, from my, this is what my side of thinking and what process all.
Okay. Uh, from the security standpoint, now in the world of technology, I feel when we are using the cloud-based software, it's more secure than what we were using in earlier stage. We were
Certainly.
using some desktop version also, so that also helps in the startup companies. So that is there. And
Yeah, and you can always have a remote desktop connections wherein you can
yeah,
open up your accounting related access to the accountants, and they'll just log into your server, your desktop or laptop, and they can. You would have all the restrictions on downloading of various documents onto your system only, onto your servers only. So accountants would hardly get an access. To download into their ecosystem if the data is of very much importance and privacy
correct.
matters a lot.
Yeah.
So there are various tools and means available to safeguard from that perspective.
Okay. I think so. This
Yeah,
helps. Yeah.
yeah,
So that's thanks a lot. I think so. This valuable insights definitely is going to help the startup founders with respect to account outsourcing is going to benefit them a lot. Uh, Now it's time to take some questions. We have some questions in the live. Uh, the first question is from the Anshuman Sinha. The question is how to find a good account outsourcing company. So maybe it's more like how to select the vendor, the outsourcing vendor.
yeah. So the preliminary criteria could be, Manoj, as I said, you should try and take some side of brainstorming sessions with the different outsourced accounting vendor partner. I would say vendor partner because accounts and finance are very crucial, very important, very near and dear to the heart of the founder. So unless and until you can establish that connect with the vendor partner, you won't
Yeah,
be able to you won't be able to feel that security to share anything and everything when it comes to the finance related matters. So if you are interviewing or if you are brainstorming with two to three different vendors, just try to understand that whether they do provide the support only from a hardcore bookkeeping and accounting perspective, or they do possess knowledge about the regulatory side of activities, the local laws, the state laws with respect to the overall startups industry, and
mm,
tax side of activities a lot, because in US and also in India also, I mean, tax plays an important role along with the accounts and finance side of function. So considering a blended talent pool, if you can come across to a one such one stop solution kind of a vendor partner who considers your accounts and finance vertical as their own accounts and finance vertical, then and only then a pure marriage gets done. So
yeah.
there are few important tick marks that if we can do, it will become literally easy to shortlist a vendor partner in that set of things.
Okay. Thank you. On this end, I think so. We have one more question. How can outsourcing help my startup during tax seasons?
That's a good question, Manoj. Most of the time, so I would have worked with almost I would say 35 to 40 startups in last 12 to 18 months of timeline.
Hmm.
Most of the startups, they would not have their accounts ready by say 15th of April. So 15th April is the deadline for any C corp, whosoever is a C corp as an entity in the US. They need to file their taxes by 15th of April. Now, if the accounts are not ready, they'll always go for an extension, and the extended deadline is 15th of October. Now, in between, if in June or July, if the investors are ready to write a check, they will always
Hmm.
request for a filed tax return because the calendar year 23 is already over. So they will request that, okay, boss, where is your tax return? Now, at that point of time, you will commit to your investors that, okay, my tax returns would be ready in next 2 weeks of timeline.
Yeah.
Once that commitment gets done, they'll come to the accountant and they'll say that, okay, I want my taxes gets filed. And then I tell them that, okay, please share your financials and please share your accounts, and let me start working on your taxes ASAP. And at that point of time, I'll come to know that their calendar year 22 is not closed properly, and their calendar year 2023 does not have any accounting entries, or maybe it would have a very partial accounting entries done in the accounting system. So at that point of time, we need to spend a lot of time in understanding and making the books live. And again, it takes a couple of months, and then the taxes gets filed. And by that time, the chances could be that the investors' interest gets diluted, and they would have another opportunity to get invested. So it's very important to keep the books live,
Yeah.
and to keep the transactions very clean, and if the books are live, you will be in a better position to share the monthly MIS reports with the investors. So it's very important to manage the accounts in a very live manner rather than uh, in a in a different.
Yeah, okay. So it's more like timeliness and accuracy from
Absolutely
the
yes.
tax
Absolutely
season
yes.
point of view. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes, and I totally understand that founders, being a techie, they would definitely not they would not like to entertain this kind of activities, but by force they have to do it. But
Yeah.
if they have a right set of accountants in place as a part of their partner who can really take care of those accounts, finance, and taxes person, it's a headache that can be taken care of by someone expert, and founders literally do not need to worry about it, and they can easily interact with the investors about the fundraising side of activities, scale up activities, and what all strategy that they wanted to implant, rather than wasting their time, energy, and efficiency in correcting the books of accounts and dealing with the nitty gritty of the taxes.
Okay. Okay. I think so. This
Yeah.
helps. We have one more question, and it's more like a tricky one, and maybe this is more important question that every founder will ask for. The question is like, what strategies can an outsourced accounting team implement to help a startup optimize cash flow management during the rapid growth phase? So maybe as the startups are growing, the maybe they are looking out for how they can optimize out the cash flow management.
So I always suggest to the founders is that even though if we have an upcoming fundraising round, then let's prepare a very granular level business plan, 12 months, 18 months, or 24 months, month on month business plan, so that we exactly come to know that what is the cash flow that comes in the form of revenues, what is the cash outflow that goes out in the form of different expenditures that we have anticipated and we have budgeted as a part of the overall financial deployment plan. And if we come to know that exactly in the month of December 2024 this is the cash flow gap that will arise, then we exactly understand and we will be aware that okay, this is the gap that we need to arrange, maybe from an internal accruals or maybe from through an outsource, I mean through an outside investors fund, or maybe through a bank or financial institutions. If
Yeah.
we don't monitor those cash inflow and cash outflow on a regular basis, the chances could be that you will come to a stage wherein you will be out of the blue moon. You will come to know that oh, there is a sincere gap of 300K now. The
Yeah.
business is on hand. Uh, the skill set is there. The product is very efficient, and we can definitely go out and leverage this opportunity. But because we don't have funds in place, now we are in a struggling kind of scenario. But if we would have been managing those cash flows in a very shuttle manner by way of monthly reporting or bi-weekly reporting, we would have a very efficient decision making pointers available in a right time, so that we can address those problems well in advance. So cash flow management is extremely important, and one should focus on the same um, as much as possible. The founder should devote time to this side of activities on a regular basis.
Yep. And more like, from the cash flow standpoint, the accounting team always can create out checklists with respect to cash flow
Totally,
forecasting, expense management, receivable management, vendor management, working capital management, monitoring
totally,
key matrices and all this stuff. So that all
totally,
reports are going to definitely help all the startup companies
certainly.
with respect to where they are on the cash flow management.
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, we have one more question. So, can startup mix outsource accounting with an in-house team? It's like an
I
interesting
would,
question.
yeah. So I would suggest if it's a seed stage startup, Manoj, like say for
Mhm.
example, the startup has raised about 500 to 700K, and now they are at a revenue stage and they are scaling very rapidly. Within the US, uh, they are going to onboard multiple employees down the line in different states, and there are lots of discussions going on with scaling up their businesses outside the US also. Then I would
Mhm.
strongly recommend that someone in-house, maybe a bookkeeper, or maybe a finance person who understands the accounts and finance as a terminology, if someone is there in-house and then coordinate with the outsourced agency, that would give a lot of comfort and confidence to the founders. So a mix, a hybrid of something local, because lots of payment needs to be made now for making
Yeah.
those payments on a regular basis, to prepare those kind of cash flow statements, so that the decision makers, the founders, can have a look at it at their ease and at their wish. So probably an
Yeah.
in-house team, one member team, or maybe a fractional team member in support of the outsourced team, it will be a very fantastic kind of team with whom the founders can think about running their entire accounts, finance, and tax vertical. But not in an early stage, or maybe not in an early stage of revenue, because I would think that if we have 150K, 200K at our disposal, it's a very, on a monthly basis, it's hardly 10 to $15,000 that we are burning, and there will be
Mhm.
hardly 10 to 15 expense vouchers, and hardly any payroll, hardly any tax related compliances. So in a month's hardly 2 to 3 hours that should go into managing the day-to-day functions of the accounting side of activities. So we don't literally need anyone in-house, but the
Mhm.
moment the startup scales their business activities and go further mature down the line on the stream, then at that point of time, I would suggest we need one local person who can coordinate this thing, and then the rest of the things can be outsourced to the third party finance consultants.
Yeah, and many times I think so. As the business expands, there are maybe multiple line of business that startup is going to manage out. They may require one person who can help the outsource accounting team to coordinate with all the accounting
Absolutely,
and
yes.
all the different teams. So
Absolutely,
that could
yes.
be in a scenario. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. So a coordination within the team, like if there are three, four major departments, and all the departments within the startups are heading by different department heads. So sometimes for an outsourced accountant, it becomes literally difficult to coordinate with each one of them. So if there is
Yeah.
one coordinator who understands finance functions and who understands the business nitty-gritties both, then probably he or she could play a very important role bridging the gap between between the two different teams, and then the communication becomes very effective and efficient, and that's why someone local within the team, and then rest of the functions outsourced to the third party outsourced accountants, that will give a lot of confidence to the startup founders while managing their accounts and finance vertical. Hybrid in-house, certain things
Yeah.
in-house, certain important tasks in-house, like payment process is something which startup founders would always love to keep in-house, but
Yeah.
rest of the functions can be outsourced.
Yeah.
Okay.
That helps. We have some more questions, but I think so. These are repetitive questions like, can I still access my financial data if I outsource accounting? So answer is absolutely yes,
Of course,
because
yes.
it's more like cloud-based softwares are there. So, anyone can access that software and retrieve out all the reports and data. And why should a startup outsource its accounting? So we already have, answered that question also. It's cost effective, uh, provides an expert insights, ensures accurate, timely, and financial management. So it's more like we already have covered all these topics, so we are not going to repeat those questions. I think so. We have answered all the questions. I don't have any question that is being left over. Okay, so uh, I'll just check one more time. Yep, that's all I think. So I do have. So that's I think so all answer. Thank you all for joining us today. If you have more questions, feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. Until next time, stay focused on building your startups while we handle the accounting. And thank you very much, Anand sir, for taking us through all the aspects on with respect to the account outsourcing.
Perfect. Thank you
So
so much,
thank
Manoj.
you very much.
Pleasure. Yeah. Thank you. Bye bye. See you.
Thank you. Bye bye.